check in. Thank you for remembering. So we can share the recording with Sue and Kim. Now, on the introductions, name, branch, and roles, and I'll begin. I'm Teresa Alameen. I'm with the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in Columbus, Georgia. I serve as the branch organizer. I'm also one of the founding organizers of the Black Liberation Caucus. And other roles that I play and will are co-convener of the Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty Subcommittee of the Advancing Human Rights Committee, also co-convener of the UN Decade Reparations Subcommittee of AHR, and co-convener of the No to NATO Subcommittee of Disarm in Wars. So Gloria, if you could go next, I'll call on people as I remember they entered the call. So it'll be Gloria, Susan, Robin, Janice, Samantha. So Gloria.
Hi, I'm Gloria McMillan in Tucson, and I'm active with the No to NATO Subcommittee on and Disarm. I'm also a writer, and I write different articles that come up in the national magazine.
Okay, I'm Susan Smith. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm one of the coordinators of our branch, and we have been involved in the anti-nuclear kinds of things here in Pittsburgh, working with Stop Banking the Bomb and some other groups. And we are a small branch, so we try and hook up with and make connections with other organizations to try and amplify the work they're doing and the work we're doing.
Okay, I think I'm next. Robin Lloyd. I'm part of the Burlington, Vermont branch, and also the coordinator of the Vermont Wolf Gathering that just ended in Rochester, Vermont. I'm on the Disarm subcommittee, or the Disarm issue committee, and on the Ending Mass Incarceration subcommittee, and also I try to get to the United Nations reparations meeting as well. Thank you.
I think is that me left?
You and myself.
Go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay. I'm Janice Hawkins, and I'm in the Des Moines, Iowa area. I'm with the Des Moines branch. Just finished a 2-year term on our leadership team. Interested in a number of areas, still looking to what I might commit. And I'm glad to be here this evening. Thank you.
Samantha Turner, and I'm here in the Southern Piedmont branch in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work closely with George, who is the leader of the branch. I also participate in Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty Committee, and the Immigration and Border Justice Committee, as well as the AHR discussions, etc., the work of the AHR, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. That's me.
Well, George, please note that Gloria McMillan joined the No to NATO subcommittee of Disarm in Wars, if I heard her correctly. The No to NATO subcommittee, Robin, you forgot, you're on that, as well as Pocky Whelan, Nancy Price, Odile, and George, help me out. You and I,
Ellen Thomas.
Yeah, she wants to be on it. But there was 7 of us, and now Gloria's joined. So George and I are the co-conveners of the No to NATO subcommittee. So Ellen Thomas, Nancy Price, Parky Whelan, Robin Lloyd, and Odile. Have I forgotten anyone?
I don't think so, but I'd have to check it out to be absolutely sure.
Well, I should have counted 8 people. So
You-
George and Teresa, that's 2. Robin, Parky.
Why does this matter?
Well, it matters because we're coming together based on working together. So asking you to say the different roles you're involved in gives us a sense of how active you are in WILF as a whole. But we don't have to spend too much time on it if that's you asking, Susan.
No.
Because
It wasn't.
who was asking why is this important?
Robin,
I mean,
Well, it is important, Robin, to know who's doing what in WILF right now. And so I think you forgot to mention that you are still on the No to NATO subcommittee, right?
yeah,
Okay, good. Well, that's great. So Shante, if you could introduce yourself, then George. I've already introduced myself, so Shante, please.
Good evening, ladies. My name is Shante McLaughlin. I am one of the organizers here in the Atlanta Metro branch, and I'm one of the organizers for the Black Liberation Caucus. Thank you.
George.
I'd like the person at the number 678 to let us know who that is, and I'll introduce myself then, if that's all right.
Yeah, that should be
You don't know my
Daryl.
number by now?
That's
Oh, sorry,
Daryl.
Daryl. No, I don't. No, I have to remind myself of stuff. I don't store it. So hello, George Friday here. I am an organizer along with Samantha Turner of the Southern Piedmont branch in North Carolina. I'm active in Disarm End Wars with the No NATO subcommittee, active in advancing human rights with the UN Decade Reparations Subcommittee and the End Mass Incarceration Death Penalty Subcommittee. And I, along with Shante and Teresa, helped to pull together and organize the Black Liberation Caucus. Hope I haven't missed anything. And my apologies, Daryl.
So
It's all
Daryl,
right, sis. All right.
please introduce yourself,
Hi.
Daryl. Is there any way,
Hello, everyone.
can you go on camera, Daryl, or are you on your phone?
I'm on the phone.
Okay.
So I'm Daryl. I am actually just leaving from work, and I'm literally at the babysitter to pick up my 5-year-old. So I needed to call in. But I am new to this organization and to the work. I am joined the DMV and the DC/DMV branch. DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And I'm just new to that. And I'm new to working with the Black Liberation Caucus, particularly in working on the strategy that we have, that we will be having, and why we're calling this meeting together with the Europeans of European descent allies, and the work that we'll do together. So that is my primary focus and work with you right now.
Well, I will add that I've known Daryl for a very long time. So when he stepped up and immediately joined WILF, because I always think of Daryl as one of the strongest male feminists I know, and he knows how much I don't like patriarchy. And so Daryl is just a really great addition to the DC, Maryland, Virginia branch. He joined WILF before we met on June 17th. So he actually helped out at the June 17th event. So Daryl calls me Mama T. I've known him and loved him for a very long time. So on the next agenda item, why an European Descent Allies Caucus? Well, over the whole year that the Black Liberation Caucus has existed, we have been objected to put it mildly, by the current leadership of the National Board. And this year in January, we laid out a 3-year strategy that is working on the transformation of WILF US and its history of exclusion rather than inclusion when it comes to women of color. And there's a history of people who at one point in 2012 and 2013 is what I remember, lots of Black women came forward and joined the National Board out of Detroit and other places. And they would literally run off from all the descriptions I've heard. And they had no allies. They felt they had no option but to quit. So I'm never gonna quit. But I think it's important that we identify who our allies are, who are working on being anti-racist and for working towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so even though they said that the Black Liberation Caucus was illegitimate, I said, well, we need a European Descent Allies Caucus. And I'll see how much they tell all of you longstanding members of WILF how illegitimate you are. And I don't think you're gonna hear that too much about you. But that is how people don't see their implicit bias that is really anti-Black in nature. So we thought it would be very important to have reliable allies of European descent to support the work that we're doing, but also to have your own voice and feel free to tell us if you think we're doing something wrong or something that isn't good. So you're an independent caucus. So you're expected to have your own meetings and to talk among yourselves and to request meetings with the Black Liberation Caucus whenever you see fit. And likewise, we in the strategy team of the Black Liberation Caucus will from time to time request meetings with you. But Gloria and Samantha have agreed to co-convene the meetings that you have. We've asked them to do that. You may decide on something different after you start meeting among yourselves. But I did ask Samantha and Gloria to get started with when you decide on your next meeting, which will be the last item on this agenda, then you will meet among yourselves and you will self-organize. So are there any questions about the concept of having a European Descent Allies Caucus?
Robin's hand is up.
Yeah, my question was just about what was the year that you say the women of color were chased out of WILF? What year was that?
It was right after I attended the Commission on the Status of Women. There were lots of Black women who were there in New York. And that was in 2012. And some of those women from Detroit and other places became active in WILF and they ran for office. So I remember voting for them in 2013, 2014, around that time. And so it was after I attended the CSW in 2012 that I remember this burst of women. And I think Melissa Torres, I'm not sure when she came in, but she also talks of having a really bad experience. And I think Mary Hanson Harrison was the president when Melissa Torres had her bad experience. So since you may remember, I know I became slightly inactive around that time because I was dealing with so many local issues here. But does that give you a good time frame, Robin?
Yeah, I don't fully remember it, that aspect of that happening, but maybe I wasn't totally involved. I think Melissa Torres came in as a friend of Laura Roscoe's maybe earlier, but whatever, more or less, that seems right.
Samantha
Okay.
Turner has her hand up.
Samantha.
I'm trying
Can't
to
hear
get
you.
on video. Here I am. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit of a mess. I just wanted to ask if we can make sure that we can get Kim Porter on the next call, because I know she has real life experience doing the work of EDAC.
Well, it's entirely up to you. What you should know about Kim, Samantha, is her new job is eating up her time. As a matter of fact, Samantha, Kim Porter resigned from the SARN board because her new job is taking up so much of her time. But whatever happens with members of EDAC is entirely up to you, Gloria, and the other members of EDAC. So this recording will be shared with Sue Hilton, Odile, and Kim, because all three of them are absent today.
Great. I'll get in contact with her.
That would be very good, very good. Are there any other questions on why a European Descent Allies Caucus? Now we get to the part where each of you tell us in the Black Liberation Caucus and tell yourselves what you envision your caucus doing. And so I'll go in reverse order. So we'll go with Samantha, then Janice, then Robin, then Susan, then Gloria. So Samantha, what do you envision? Or what are your expectations for this?
I'll tell you what my hope is. I hope that the people who are working together on this put it in their minds that intent does not equal impact. What we do matters. What we say matters. So if we want to help, we have to listen a lot more than we're talking. Okay. So if there's a question of dedication to this, don't do it. This isn't a place to play. If you are an ally, be an ally, know what that is. And you're working for a different system altogether. You know, we're not working for more of the same in a with just different people. We want to change the whole system. So that's what I hope everybody is dedicated to, that, changing the system so it's not oppressive in any way. It's not based on a white supremacist model, that it is true democracy, that we can all work together and build true democracy, especially within wealth.
Thank you. And George, if you could play the role of timekeeper and give people the 1 minute finger when they've spoken for 1 minute. I think Samantha came in under 2 minutes.
He did.
So the next speaker is Janice.
All right. I haven't given it a whole lot of thought just yet, not being certain of what the expectation was. I would like to work towards a wealth that is inclusive. There are many things that I've seen from my experience that make me very uncomfortable with the current system. And I hope to be able to assist in creating differences here. I think that's all I have for right now.
Robin.
Yeah, okay. I was on the talk, I believe yesterday, day before yesterday, about mass incarceration, and Samantha put something in the chat, and I responded concerning the history of racism in Wilf. And what I'm wondering is whether we all have a common knowledge of that history. Like how many people on this call are aware of an organization within Wilf that used to exist called UForge? I'm not able to see everyone now.
Never heard of it until recently. And
Uh-huh.
I've been in and around Wilf for many years.
Uh-huh. Okay. I think we should know about that because it was a
So-
very strong force in Wilf for a couple of years. Which, and
So-
what does it stand for? United for against United for rights to for against racism and for justice was the basic theme of it, and involved a number of women of color, and that was during the time of Marilyn Clement. And if people would like at the next meeting, I can do a brief history of it.
So you mean Marilyn Clement, who was involved with healthcare issues in New York?
Yeah, she was the director of Wilf for the executive director for 4 or 5 years. She was the person who brought me into the board, and she organized and got the money for sending 17 women to the Durban conference against racism in 2001.
Well, I do know that the implosion of the New York branch centered around an internal fight that involved Marilyn. When Marilyn came south to visit her good friend, Miriam Thompson, that's how I learned about how the New York branch went away. It was an internal struggle that involved Marilyn. So Marilyn is famous for her commitment to anti-racism. She's actually in the book about Ella Baker that Barbara Ramsey wrote, and Marilyn didn't know that. And when I showed her picture in the book, she was so surprised when I met her in the Triangle some years ago. But Marilyn was well loved by a lot of Black women for her commitment to racial justice. So
And
I
white
do.
women.
I do know that part about, but I had no idea there was a group called UForge. Samantha, we're going to people speaking. And so after Robin comes Susan, I believe.
Yes, I think I'm next. So I have worked mostly locally with Wilf. I have not become involved with much of anything at the national level or international level for that matter. I have been working in my own life to be an ally in lots of areas, especially in terms of racial justice. And so I came to this meeting with the understanding that we would be, the EDAC would be working together to look at different things that are happening in different places and maybe being able to share ideas or work together on certain issues or aspects of issues that are related to structural racism in particular and institutional racism, but also just being aware of things that are happening so that the actions I take and the things that we do here in Pittsburgh are anti-racist and supportive of an anti-racist WILF.
Thank you, Susan. And next we have Gloria, I believe.
Oh, hi. I expect to continue doing in WILF what I've been doing in my life, which is anywhere I can, trying to break the walls down. And I'm a playwright, so in my own life, I've written plays and had them produced about racial inclusion. And just as I'm on this list, I have a Black actor who I'm hooking up with a playwright. So there aren't that many of them here in town. And I hope to carry this. I'm newer to the infrastructure of WILF, and I didn't say I belong to the Tucson local branch, and they're not too connected to the national, but maybe that will change.
Well, Samantha, you have your hand up for a question.
No, I just wanted to react to Robin talking about the U-Forge. I would love to know what happened to that progressive leader and why they left WILF. And also why that didn't stay a focus when they left. Why that there wasn't, why we're here now and needing this here now, you know. So like I said, their impact does not equal, I'm sorry, intention does not equal impact. So those people were here and they did good for that time and they got things done. But, you know, then if they had really done something positive for WILF, you'd see more change now, and we wouldn't be at this point where we don't have strong Black women leaders in this organization. I mean, that's where we need to be. So the problem that there's not, they've, you know, yeah, they had good intentions, but the impact didn't last. So.
Well, Samantha, that's a bit unfair. Marilyn Clements is deceased, and so is Miriam Thompson. The main failure of WILF as an organization is not recruiting younger women. And the members who have been really committed have either died off or become so frustrated with the stranglehold that older members have on the leadership. We literally have members of WILF who are in their 80s and 90s. Most of the branches, the members are over 70 years old, and that's how you get to old white members. And so that's true in the Philadelphia branch. It's true in some of the West Coast branches. The Seattle branch is dead because the members became too elderly to continue. That's also true of the Portland branch. But Marilyn died, I believe she died of cancer. And so she came south to visit her friend those many years ago when I lived in the Triangle, because she knew she had cancer. And so I believe that was the reason she passed away. But there are and have been always people like who have good hearts, but for some reason, like Robin, though she has associations with lots of African and people of African descent, but for some reason, she's never invited them to join her branch. It's a conversation that I had with Susan Smith, that I've had with Tina Shelton and others. The branches in the South, Samantha, are started by strong Black women. So it's not true that there are no strong Black women in Wilk. Over the past year, a number of us have emerged, and that's how we're building our strength through the safe space of the Black Liberation Caucus. So it's not fair to say there are no strong Black women in Wilk, because I'm certainly one, George is certainly one, Shantae is certainly one, Cece is one, and I can name a number of Black women in the branch.
Teresa, I agree. In the past year, you have done so much work to make that happen. In the past year, you have made that happen. I totally agree with you. I'm talking about the atmosphere that made that necessary, and that's been a struggle. Instead of something celebrated by the older members, it's been a struggle for you to do, and that's a shame.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
three hands up.
Well, I just want to say to Samantha, that's the conversation that you're going to have among yourselves at your next meeting. So George, if you could call on the people in the order that the hands went up.
Robin Lloyd and Gloria McMillan and Janice Hawkins.
Well, let's go with Gloria because she wrote in the chat that she had not finished.
Yeah,
So let's give
I had
Gloria.
not. I was in the middle and I appreciate the background, but one of the things that's important to me is the role of the arts. And I don't hear much of that. I don't want to talk long here, but I tried to start in about being a playwright and pretty much we got off on something else. There is a good intergenerational and pulling in younger people possibility with playwriting and doing theater and things like that. And theater is always political. It can be very political. I'm done.
Well, that's something, I know that you're a shameless self-promoter, Gloria, but that's something that you can talk among yourselves about in terms of strategy. But who was next, George?
Robin and then Janet.
Go ahead, Robin.
You're on mute, Robin.
Yeah, this is the booklet, lots of files in it about UForge. And like I say, I'd be glad to give a sort of an accounting of it and perhaps get someone who was very involved in it, who lives in Vermont now, named Sha'an Moliert, who Teresa knows. It existed and then it stopped existing, and that would be a good thing to understand what happened. So we should put that on our agenda sometime in the future.
Well, most certainly it should be on the EDAC agenda at the first meeting you have among yourselves, because that history is important. And Sha'an walked away in utter frustration with the organization. And Robin knows how bad it was. The last time I talked to Sha'an, I thought I was going to have to medicate myself because I couldn't get to her because she made it clear she'd never do anything with Will unless they pay her. So I believe at one point, Sha'an even served in the leadership of Will. And I know when we worked together in the beloved community project of Will, that's when Sha'an told me how frustrating it was that people were so much dealing with white fragility and denial that she just couldn't take it anymore. So that's what I remember that Sha'an was feeling, and she certainly was still feeling it the last time I talked with her.
Well, I've
But
talked with her recently too, and you know, she was hired to give workshops in Wolf branches around the country and was well received, and she did not seem to be as negative towards Wilf in the future. If she comes on and does a workshop, of course she should be paid again.
well, let Janet speak, and then we'll put up the 3-year strategy chart so you can we'll show about the workshops of the Black Liberation Caucus. I think that the work of anti-racism transformation should be done by members who are committed, not just continuing to hire independent contractors to do everything, because the Black Liberation Caucus has a strategy for doing that work. And we do expect our expenses to be compensated as we travel around the country doing the workshops, because George is one of the best experts I know on anti-racism transformation. And she does that and gets paid to do that. And likewise, Daryl Moak. So within the Black Liberation Caucus, we already have the staff to do that. And we're members of WILF. So Janice, if you could speak so we can move the agenda. Janice, please.
Yes, a couple of issues. I would like to hear about the history of how Black people have been treated in wealth, and particularly what it was that caused them to leave. Somehow we have to get to the root of that to have some sense of what happened that we can try and avoid next time. We may think that it's because the leaders are all older and they're white and therefore they're racist. It's too broad to use that brush. I think we have to know a little bit more about that. I do agree that recruitment of young people is an important aspect to raise the age, but I'll tell you, it's extremely difficult to do. Young people do not have the same sense of community and the interest and desire to work on big issues like nuclear weapons and things like that. That's to me, it's a whole other arena of recruitment that requires a body specific to do that, because that's going to require something where you're using high-tech stuff, TikTok, all the latest kinds of things to attract those people. We don't have it at the level that would satisfy them. So I just wanted to make those comments.
The youngest member of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch is 28 years old. The second youngest member is 30 years old. And I think people who are new to the movement of disarmament are ready to learn if they're treated with respect. And that's my experience. I never have any problem recruiting younger women because I treat them as equals, and many of them say, will you be my mentor? And I always say to them, yes, if you will be mine. And so they laugh, and I said, no, seriously, I only do co-mentorship. So we're at the point of looking at the BLC chart. So George, if you could go back up to the top, because this is important. George, up it a little bit so we can see all of the goals. Yes. So when we started this strategic plan, one of the things you know, or should know about strategic planning is you always say, where do you want to be from now until then? So in other words, what are your goals? So we said, well, it's a 3-year campaign. So where do we want to be in 3 years? So we divided up the 3 years into 3 phases. Short term, which was January of this year till June of this year. And we set a goal of recruiting in collaboration with others, at least 50 new members. Well, George found out at the recently from Chris Wilbeck that 82 members have joined WILF since January. And so we're well ahead of our goal of having 100 members by the end of this year, 2022. So the second phase is July 2022 to June of 2023. So we're in that phase now. But when we started at where do we want to be in the final phase? So between July 23rd and December 24th, July of 2023 and December 2024, that's gonna be 18 months. So in the final 18 months of the campaign, we want to make sure that we are getting to accomplishing these goals. We expect to be close to 200 members at the start of July of 2023. So we'll do our final 100 members. So we're transforming WILF based on who's in it. And the expectation is that all of you in your branches will also be recruiting members, not just those of us in the South and in the Black Liberation Caucus, but that all of us in EDAC and the BLC will recruiting members. So in the 3-year campaign, we want to have recruited 300 new members, which will put us over 1,500 members. So we'll be truly the largest section in WILF International. We want to have 20 branches that participate in the anti-racism transformation training. So we're calling it the ART, Gloria. So we want to use art and creative means. Well, I hope you can take a joke, Gloria. I do consider you shamelessly self-promoting, but it's okay because you think your work is very important. And I agree because part of how I know Daryl is a singer, and Daryl has a chorus that he leads. And so we're going to have art and culture as a part of our work. So the anti-racism transformation art is a way of saying we're going to use art and culture to teach anti-racism and to change the organizational culture. So we're working to get 20 branch cities to pass reparations ordinances. So several of the cities are present here, and we're well on the way to getting that done in the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in Columbus, Georgia, after a great meeting, 2 meetings actually that were held today about reparations ordinances. So those are our major goals there. Now let's just switch over to who our branch partners are and our individual allies are. So the branch partners are based on where we've identified allies. So, so you see your branch needs to be there. So George, if you can add, because Janice, you're in the Des Moines branch, right?
Mhm.
So the Des Moines
Yes.
branch, the Des Moines branch needs to be added because branches of all of the members of EDAC are considered partner branches. So all of the partner branches are here. All of the branches of the Black Liberation Caucus leaders are here. And so the Triad branch, the Southern Piedmont branch, I don't see the Southern Piedmont branch. Is it there as a branch partner? It would go
It's
after.
not, I will add it.
Yeah, because San Francisco Bay should be before Triad, and Southern Piedmont should be after San Francisco East Bay. So part of what we do with this chart is we're correcting it and updating it so that we make sure that it's accurate, because we have our full Black Liberation Caucus meeting. And so the Tucson branch should be there after the triangle because we have Gloria here. So you see how we are working this. And so what we're asking all of you to do as leaders in your branches is to reach out in your communities and add people to the branches. Recently, Gloria introduced me to Emily. Is it Ricketts? And I invited.
Yes, Emily Ricketts.
And she's a very close friend of Gloria's, but for some reason, Gloria never asked her to join, or I don't know what happened. But when I asked Emily to join, I helped her go online. And so Emily is now maybe possibly the only Black member of the Tucson branch. So part of what we're doing is making sure that all the branches have women of color in them. So if your branch has no women of color in Des Moines or in Humboldt or in Madison or Pittsburgh or any of the other places that are listed as branch partners, we want to encourage you to recruit.
We
Now,
have one.
George.
Pittsburgh has one. And for a group of about 7 people that meet on a regular basis, that's not too bad a percentage, but we're working to recruit in general, including people of color.
So Dr. Claire Cohen, is she a member yet?
She is not, but she is well known to members of our branch. She's just very busy with other things. So
well, she's my close friend. And
she's also a close friend of a couple of people that are in the branch. They know her and talk with her regularly.
Well, she agreed with me that she would join. She says she donates to Will. And so she is very busy because her primary thing is with Physicians for a National Health Plan, working on Medicare for all. But she promised me she would join the Pittsburgh branch. So all she has to do is go online, pay her $35 and do it. And so I'll make sure she does that. So who is a woman of color who's actually a member in Pittsburgh?
Iota Robinson. I put her in contact with the Black Liberation Caucus. I don't know whether she ever contacted you or attended a meeting, but I did tell her about it and she expressed interest. So, I mean, you know, she's also somewhat younger than many of the rest of us in the branch, but busy with many things. She has a toddler at the moment, and so is very busy running around after the toddler and doing lots of other things as well. But in any case, she is aware of the caucus and has had the contact information. So,
well, ask her if it would be okay for you to give me her contact information.
Okay.
Because I never wait for people to call me. Whenever I meet somebody, I always make sure I have their contact information as well as give them mine, because we have very young members in our Black Liberation Caucus, like the 28-year-old. She has a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so she's quite busy. She works for a company and she works from home, but she's one of our active members in the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. And so what we're trying to do is put the younger women together with each other, because at the Wilf International level, there is a youth movement. They call themselves Y Wilfers. And so I'm trying to get some of the younger women, 35 and younger is what it's set up to be. So the women who are 35 and younger can find a way to come together as we work on building the next generation of participation. So George, if you could raise the individual allies list. So let's look at it and make sure all of your names are on it. Natasha Beck is someone I know through other political circuits, but she's also in what used to be the Portland branch. And she told me that she spends her time caring for most of the elderly members. So they really don't have a branch anymore. Jennifer Lee Disney is a professor and head of the Department of Political Science at Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And she's actually a board member of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. And I think many of the names you will recognize. So your names are all there. And so everybody look at the list really good and make sure your name is there, because we have identified people who have expressed an interest in anti-racism commitment. And so we do publicize this list, and we want you, yes, Odile should definitely be there. And is Alan Haber there? Yeah, he's there. So obviously Odile should be there. And so this is a list that you can all use if you decide you want to build the caucus of European descent allies. So George, if we could go over to the activity side. So if you could lower it, George, so we can see activities and strategic.
Okay, just want to point out it's 7:24.
Well, that's good to do. So George, you have sent this chart to all of the members of the EDAC, right?
Not this version. I will send it after our meeting.
Well, great. If you could take it down and put the agenda back up, because we do want to respect people's time and stop at 7:30. Yes, so we're at the point of, I don't think we can do it, reaching a shared vision of equity and inclusion transformation. So that's something we can add to the Black Liberation Caucus agenda. And I would urge EDAC to add it to their agenda. So Gloria and Samantha, do you want to say something like 1 minute in your acceptance of the roles of co-convener, which means that the two of you will work together on planning the first meeting agenda. So if you could take 1 minute each to say that you're okay with doing that together. Gloria, if you could go first.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what it is we're doing. And I think what we are responsible for is to get a schedule of meetings and that we can get people to show up at. Is that correct?
Being a co-convener means kind of co-facilitating the meetings with
But I mean,
Samantha. And Samantha has quite a bit of skill in doing that, running meetings. So Samantha, if you could say that you're comfortable with working as the kind of primary co-convener, and then we'll go to your suggestion, Samantha, for how soon all of you want to meet. So Samantha, it's on you.
Okay, so I'm going to speak loudly. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is not be, I'll be the lead convener with a co-convener, Gloria, and I would love that. I need you. And I don't want to be a leader. I just want to facilitate because I'm probably the only one who's done it before. So what we'll do is I'll schedule the Zoom meetings. We'll work together on an agenda, and then we'll facilitate. If one of us cannot facilitate, we have to be able to depend on the other one to do that. Or if one of us cannot do something, we have to depend that the other one can do it. And that's what I need from a co-lead. Just somebody who can back me up, you know, and help, you know. I need as much input as you want to give everybody. I want everybody's input for agendas, you know, topics of agendas, date inputs, all of that. That's we're not leaders. I'm just facilitating for the convenience of it, and that I can do it. So we'll send out the links every month and the agenda.
Well,
Yeah.
let me say this, Samantha. You're probably the newest member because many of the women here have been members for a very long time. And I know that particularly Robin, and I'm pretty sure Susan Smith and others know how to facilitate a meeting. So once you come together and you understand all of your skills, you may have a more horizontal way of rotating around, so you won't always have to be the convener. What we've started to do in some of the subcommittees that George and I co-convene is we get different members to facilitate each meeting. So it's not just me and George. So on the No to NATO committee, George and I, subcommittee, George and I facilitated the first meeting, but the next meeting, which is August 15th, by the way, Gloria, is being facilitated by Nancy Price, and the meeting after that will be facilitated by someone else. So Shante is saying she has to go right at 7:30. Well, we'll see you, Shante, because the last item on the agenda, Samantha, and all of you here with EDAC is to choose your next meeting. And we really need to do that before we close the call.
There were two hands up while
Can
Samantha
I
was
throw one
talking.
thing in there?
No, Daryl, please. The EDAC members need to set their next meeting. That is the last item on the agenda and all we have time for, because the Black Liberation Caucus is meeting on Sunday, July 31st. And anything we have to say about what's going on with this, we will deal with on Sunday. So Samantha and Gloria, can you pull out your calendars and offer? I would suggest you try to meet at some point during August. So if we can know what that date is when all of you are available, and then see if Odile, Sue, and who else is missing? Mary Foster. So those are the 3 members who are missing and Kim Porter. So Kim Porter, Mary Foster, Odile, and Sue Hilton are missing. So what's your pleasure, Samantha? Do you want to try to organize a meeting or choose a date now? Or since you have everybody's email, do you want to just email people later?
What do you think, Gloria? I think we should probably send an email out with a couple of times to suggest.
That's how I always do it with any group that I'm putting together. You just send them 2 or 3 times, and most of the time, everybody can do it on one of those.
Okay, so does anybody right now have a preference for what day of the week? Is anybody's
I'd like to request not Monday.
not Monday? Okay. I'd like to request not Tuesday. So does anybody have a problem with Thursdays? Thursdays are good for me.
That could work for me.
Works for me.
Okay, good. So we'll ask for Thursday evenings. Evening times available. And
Should be.
the
Yeah.
backup for that, you want to put for the only other night that I possibly have free is Tuesday. So that would have to be my backup.
And I would rather not do Fridays because I have a film discussion group.
Okay. Would
Thursday
Tuesday
works.
be okay for a second choice?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. So we'll give Tuesday or Thursday. And about the same time, 6:30 Eastern.
Yes.
sounds good.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, it sounds like you're well on the way to putting your first full meeting together because you are an independent caucus. And so we need feedback from you because one of the important things about allies is being completely honest and open. I always tell people I make a lot of mistakes. So if you think I've made a mistake about something that we're doing in my role as leadership of the Black Liberation Caucus, feel free to contact me one-on-one would be my preference because I don't think most people share the same opinion about things. So feel free to contact me one-on-one, and I put my numbers out for everybody. But we really do need to end the meeting because the national board meeting will be starting soon. As a matter of fact, they may have already opened up the before the meeting. And so George and I are signed up for that. So are there any others of you who will be
Well,
at the national?
Robin still has her hand up. Can we hear from her before we end?
Yes,
She's had her hand up for a long time.
George. Robin, will you speak?
Sure. Wow. Yeah, way back at the beginning of your report, I was just curious when you said 82, there are 82 new members of WILF. I wondered, does that include gift memberships or?
It does.
Okay, so some of those are maybe members.
The gift memberships were about 8. Very
Oh,
small number were gifts.
interesting. Okay, thank you. That's all I was wondering.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I work with a lot of low-income women, and I know this year I've gifted several memberships, and I'm very close with those young women, and they show up at subcommittee meetings, and we do work together in the community. And their primary identification is they love saying they're a member of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. So I know a number of the gift memberships are memberships I gifted. So George, if you could save the recording. I don't think there was much chat, but if you could save the chat, and we'll make sure that gets shared with Mary Foster, Odile, Sue Hilton, and who else is missing?
Kim Porter.
Kim Porter. So those are the 4 members of EDAC who are missing. And Daryl, feel free to call me later. But we certainly have our Black Liberation Caucus meeting on Sunday, and we'll be talking about this then. Good evening, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye-bye.